Picture this. It's 1955. Britain is still digging itself out of the rubble of a war that ended a decade ago. Ration books are still tucked into kitchen drawers, and half the country is holding its breath, waiting for something, anything, to feel normal again. And then, on a quiet grey street in London, a car glides past so silently, so smoothly, that people actually stop walking just to watch it disappear around the corner. That car didn't just carry passengers. It carried an entire nation's hope on four wheels. Today I'm counting down the 10 greatest British saloons of the 1950s, and I promise you, the car sitting at number 1 is so legendary that collectors are still fighting to own one right now, in this exact moment, 70 years later. Stay with me until the end, because number 1 is not just a car, it's the reason an entire British brand is still worshipped today. Let's start the countdown. Number 10 takes us to the MG Magnette CA. In 1953, MG did something almost nobody expected and honestly, something a lot of loyal fans were furious about. MG built its name on raw, wind-in-your-hair sports cars, so when they rolled out a 4-door family saloon, die-hard enthusiasts felt betrayed. But here's the twist nobody saw coming. The Magnette CA was actually brilliant. Under the hood sat a fresh 1.5-liter engine pumping out 60 horsepower, wrapped in one of the sharpest, tightest-looking bodies Britain had ever produced for a mid-sized saloon. It felt alive in a way family cars simply weren't supposed to feel. Then in 1956, the upgraded ZB arrived, and for a brief shining moment, it was the fastest 1.5-liter saloon money could buy anywhere in Britain. Leather seats, proper dials, a cabin that made ordinary buyers feel like they'd bought something special. Would you have trusted a sports car company to build your family saloon? MG proved that sometimes the biggest risk pays off the biggest way. Belongs to the Vauxhall Velox, and this is where things get flashy. While every other British manufacturer was chasing quiet good taste, Vauxhall looked across the Atlantic and said, why not steal a little Hollywood glamour? The Velox rolled onto grey British streets wearing wraparound bumpers, bold chrome, and a wide, confident stance that looked like it had been shipped straight out of Detroit, except it was built entirely in England. Underneath that flashy shell sat a smooth, dependable 6-cylinder engine built for effortless cruising, not drag racing. Families absolutely loved it. Driving one felt like driving a slice of optimism through a country still wrapped in austerity. Critics sneered and called it style over substance, but buyers didn't care one bit, because the Velox made them feel modern every single morning they climbed behind the wheel. Can you imagine pulling into your street in one of these in 1957? Every single neighbor would have been staring. 'Tis the Riley Pathfinder, and this one is for the purists. Riley built cars for people who actually cared about engineering, not just showroom shine. Introduced in 1953, the Pathfinder carried a torquey 2.5-liter engine originally developed for an earlier model, delivering genuinely brisk performance wrapped in handsome, understated coachwork. Inside, it felt like a gentleman's private study, veneer trim, deep leather, dials arranged with real purpose. Here's the twist though. Police forces across Britain started adopting the Pathfinder because of its blend of pace and stability. And suddenly this quiet gentleman's saloon had a reputation for chasing down criminals on the open road. But mechanical issues with the rear suspension eventually dented its reputation among private buyers. Still, for anyone who valued real handling over flashy looks, nothing else came close. Would you have picked substance over showroom sparkle? It's the Humber Super Snipe, and this car simply commanded a room the second it arrived. Built for embassies, senior military officers, and anyone who needed to arrive somewhere and be noticed instantly, the Super Snipe carried a substantial straight-six engine designed to haul serious weight with quiet, unshakable authority. Step inside and you're surrounded by acres of leather and polished wood, an atmosphere closer to an exclusive gentleman's club than a motor car. The ride was soft, composed, deliberately unhurried, built for long British journeys rather than backroad thrills. And here's a detail that will surprise you. The Super Snipe quietly became a favorite of the royal family for estate and touring duties, cementing its reputation at the very top of British society. Do you think this kind of understated authority would still turn heads today? brings us the Wolseley 690, a car that looked like the definition of a British saloon: upright grille, that famous illuminated badge glowing softly at night, a shape that whispered authority instead of shouting it. Under the bonnet sat a smooth 2.6-liter six-cylinder engine shared with contemporary Austin models, offering unhurried, dependable performance. British police forces adopted the 690 throughout the decade, and it patrolled motorways with quiet dignity for years. But away from duty, it lived a completely different life. Private buyers loved its old-world charm, its leather and polished wood cabin, its steady, trustworthy handling built for confidence rather than speed. Would you have trusted this saloon on a long motorway run back in 1956? Most owners certainly did, and here's where things start getting seriously interesting, because from this point on, every single car on this list gets more luxurious, more powerful, and more legendary. It is the Daimler Conquest, and Daimler wasn't playing games. This brand carried royal warrants long before the 1950s even began, and the Conquest was built to carry that legacy into a brand new generation of buyers. Introduced in 1953, it used a 2.4-liter six-cylinder engine and, crucially, offered Daimler's ingenious fluid flywheel transmission, a genuinely clever alternative to a traditional clutch that made driving remarkably smooth for the era. The Conquest Century version added extra performance for buyers who wanted Daimler refinement without giving up pace entirely. Inside, the craftsmanship remained unmistakably Daimler: quality leather, real wood, an atmosphere of quiet British formality. And then, almost as a final surprise, a rare drop-head coupe version arrived, proving Daimler hadn't lost its flair for pure elegance. Would you have chosen Daimler refinement over raw performance? Plenty of buyers back then absolutely did. Is the Armstrong Siddeley Sapphire 346, and this is where aerospace engineering literally lands on four wheels. Armstrong Siddeley built aircraft engines before they ever built cars, and that heritage shows in every single detail of the Sapphire 346. Launched in 1953, its 3.4-liter six-cylinder engine used hemispherical combustion chambers, producing around 125 horsepower in standard form. Buyers could even specify a Wilson preselector gearbox, letting drivers preselect a gear with a small lever and engage it with a simple pedal press, technology that felt shockingly advanced for its time. Fitted with twin carburetors, and the Sapphire pushed straight past the magical 100-mile-per-hour mark, making it one of the swiftest large saloons Britain produced that entire decade. The cabin matched that ambition completely: walnut veneer, leather seating, and a build quality that felt almost aeronautical in its precision. But here's the thing: engineering brilliance alone wasn't quite enough to win the ultimate crown, because the next three cars on this list bring something no rival could ever fully match. Is the Rover P4, affectionately nicknamed Anti-Rover, and that nickname says everything about why people loved it. Launched in 1949 but truly defining the entire decade that followed, the P4 offered a range of six-cylinder engines, from a solid 75 horsepower 2.1-liter unit all the way up to a punchier 90 horsepower 2.6-liter added later. What made the P4 genuinely special wasn't outright speed. It was an unshakable sense of dependable quality wrapped around every single journey you took in it. The cabin felt warm and reassuring: leather seats, simple honest instrumentation, nothing flashy, everything trustworthy. That reassurance built incredible loyalty. The P4 attracted royalty and everyday professionals alike, and stayed in production for an astonishing 15 years because Britain simply refused to let it go. If a car can stay beloved for 15 straight years, you know it did something right. But the real luxury legend of the decade was still climbing toward us, and when it finally arrived, nothing on this list could match its raw presence. It's the Jaguar Mark VII and Mark VIII, and this is the car that changed everything for Jaguar. Launched in 1950, its 3.4-liter XK straight-six engine, the exact same twin-cam unit powering the legendary XK120 sports car, produced 160 horsepower, giving this massive saloon genuine sporting pace alongside real luxury. Top speed exceeded 100 miles per hour, an almost unbelievable figure for a car this size in the early 1950s. In 1952, It became the very first Jaguar ever offered with automatic transmission, instantly broadening its appeal to an entirely new kind of buyer. The interior wrapped occupants in leather and polished wood, yet somehow the driving experience stayed genuinely thrilling, not just comfortable. By 1956, the Mark VIII arrived with an uprated 190 horsepower engine, sharpening performance even further while keeping that same unmistakable presence. This was the saloon that proved Britain could build genuine performance luxury, not just comfort alone. But one manufacturer had spent decades quietly perfecting an entirely different kind of magic, and their moment was about to arrive. And that brings us to the Rolls-Royce Silver Cloud, and honestly, some cars are simply built differently. Launched in 1955, the Silver Cloud remains one of the finest automobiles Britain has ever produced, full stop. Its 4.9-liter straight-six engine was whisper quiet, delivering smooth, effortless power through a 4-speed automatic gearbox refined specifically for British roads. Rolls-Royce famously refused to publish official horsepower figures. Instead, they simply described the power as adequate, a masterclass in quiet, unshakable British confidence that no other brand on earth could pull off. Step inside and you're surrounded by Wilton carpets, hand-finished leather, and polished walnut, creating an atmosphere unmatched by anything else on this entire list. The chassis itself was nearly twice as rigid as its predecessor, giving remarkable composure even at high speed. This was the car that defined an entire era of British luxury, elegant, unhurried, utterly serene, and it became the default choice for aristocracy, business leaders, and anyone who simply wanted the very best that Britain could possibly engineer. 70 years later, collectors are still chasing this exact car, still paying enormous sums just to sit behind that wheel for a single afternoon. So tell me, out of all 10 of these incredible machines, which one would you have proudly parked in your own garage back in the 1950s? Drop your answer in the comments right now. I read every single one of them. And if your family ever owned one of these legendary saloons, I genuinely want to hear that story too. So type it out below and let's keep this piece of British motoring history alive together. If this countdown kept you hooked until the very last second, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button, because next time we're rewinding even further into Britain's forgotten motoring history, and trust me, you do not want to miss what's coming next.